So, what this class is about is a meditation class, so it's about meditation, obviously. But the practice of meditation doesn't take any time at all because the technique takes a couple of minutes to say what it is. And it's a relatively simple technique. But the practice of it, if it's done every single day without fail, along with the understanding that comes from the teaching that was a part of what meditation was created for thousands of years ago. If you practice it every day and you understand the teachings, it's not just about stress reduction. Meditation is about what they call self-realization, what they call awakening or waking up. So, and this self-realization is important because unless you discover what your true nature is, and unless you practice in such a way where that true nature, that is your real self, can be experienced and lived from, life will be difficult. Life will be suffering. And as the Buddha said, the source of suffering in the original teachings, he said the source of suffering is desire. That word doesn't necessarily capture it as well as I think it could be captured, because what that means, the source of suffering is desire. What that means in practical experience is, what is desire? Desire is wanting something you don't have, right? You desire it, right? In this particular instance, desire means wanting things to be different than they are. Right? So if you look at your life and ask yourself, what is it in my life and what is it about me that I want to be different? What is it about life and what is it about me that should be different than it is? What is it about life and what is it about me that I reject or I resist or I don't like or I try to avoid or I try to change or fix, right? That's kind of the psychological life that people lead, because the psychological life that people lead is this ongoing conversation happening in your head all day long, right? The voice in your head's talking all the time, and the majority of humanity takes that voice to be them. They call it me thinking, right? And before you have contact with the truth, before you have contact with these teachings, that's the typical experience that human beings are having. That voice in my head is me thinking. Right? In truth, if you slow down and pay attention to that voice in your head, it's not hard to recognize that it can't possibly be you. The easiest way to see that that's the case is to simply understand. If I ask you what you think, you have to look and see what the voice in your head says and tell me. You don't know what you think because you don't think. Right? What you call thinking is what the voice in the head is doing, right? But you're not doing that. And the evidence for that is pretty clear. You have to look to see what the voice says to know what you think. But the other aspect of evidence that's pretty clear is that that voice in your head torments you, doesn't it? Doesn't it keep you up at night? Doesn't it say things you don't like hearing about yourself? So if that was you, why would the voice be doing that? That would be insane for the voice to be doing that. So the teachings help to bring about an understanding where you begin to see that the voice in your head is not you, and the voice in your head is the voice of the conditioning that you've experienced since you were born. The voice in your head is the voice of you could say it's the voice of the personality, so to speak, right? It's the voice of the personality. But you're not the personality. What is the personality? The personality is a self-concept, right? Personality is a self-concept, right? So if the personality is a concept, it means that it's not actual. It's not actually alive. It's not actually real. It's just an understanding we have, that I can talk to you about your personality. And when we talk, we actually say my personality. Okay? So if you say my personality, obviously you're referring to it as if it's not you, aren't you? My personality, like my car, my house, my personality. But even though we talk about it that way, at the same time we talk about it that way, we take that personality to be what we are. And so if you go to a psychologist because you want some help, because you're suffering from some emotional suffering or some depression or anxiety or some conflict in your relationships, when you go to the psychologist to get some help, the psychologist interviews you and gives you a diagnosis. There's a book called the DSM, I think it's 5 now, right? It's the manual of all diagnosis, and the therapist can look in the manual and it'll tell you if they act like this and they talk like this and they do this, that's what's wrong, right? So you can look yourself up in the DSM-5.
I think it's up to a 10 now.
What's that?
I think the DSM's up to a 10.
Well, whatever. They change it because what was crazy ends up being sane at a different time, so they take that off the list, right? You're not crazy if you're this way anymore. But what it boils down to is that it's a personality disorder. The whole book is about personality disorders, right? So if you're going to be in psychotherapy and you're going to be diagnosed, you're going to be diagnosed as a personality. And if you're going to be in treatment in psychotherapy, the treatment is to treat your personality, to help you change your personality, change the way your personality is, change the way your personality behaves, change the way your personality thinks. And if you make those adjustments, then you'll be able to get along better in the world. Whatever your problem is, you'll be able to get along better in the world. Well, one of the things I discovered as a psychotherapist that has been doing this for 50 years, and it used to really bug me, that either I wasn't a very good psychotherapist or psychotherapy doesn't work very well. Had to be one of the two, right? So once I got over that I wasn't a bad psychotherapist, because I worked with a lot of psychotherapists, and among them I was pretty good. So the other possibility was that the whole business of treating people as a personality is a mistake. That's why they don't recover. That's why they don't get much better, simply because they're not a personality. And because the personality has manifested itself by occupying your brain. The brain scientists tell us there's a thing called the default network. It's the areas of the brain that when they function together, it causes the idea that you're a me, a self, a person, right? But in reality, even the brain scientists say in reality, that's simply not the case. It's like an illusion. And the illusion keeps getting created through the thought process. Because most people think that they're thinking when the voice in their head talks. Right? So that creates the illusion that they're this person that thinks. Right? But once you slow down and you start to pay attention, or you learn from some of the ancient teachings, the wisdom teachings, you can start to pay attention and realize that that's simply not true. The thinking activity produces the idea that you're the one that is inside this body. It produces the idea that you're separate from the rest of the world, right? And so your life is about getting along with all these 8 billion other people. And your life is about dealing with all the circumstances that are going to occur in the world, because everything that's happening is happening to you. It's happening to you as a person, right? And so people, when they live in that domain, when they live in that thought process and that feeling process, there's a lot of suffering that goes on. They get anxious, they get angry, and so it causes all kinds of trouble, right, for people, and they end up getting depressed because it seems like there's no way out. So these ancient wisdom teachings offer us a possibility to get free from all that. These ancient wisdom teachings tell us that you are not a personality, and what you are is available at all times, because no matter what you think you are, what you really are is the awareness itself. If I ask you how you know you're here, right, the only real answer to the question is, I'm aware that I'm here, right? Yeah. And the reason that awareness is the basis of your existence is because it is what you are. The awareness is what we are. But almost none of us are living our lives as the awareness. Almost all of us are living the lives believing that we're this physical body and we're this personality. So, this is a meditation class, but it's a meditation class that teaches that the practice of meditation, if it's done every single day without fail, will allow you to begin to come out of the identity of being a personality and will allow you to start to experience the reality of what you are instead of what you think you are. And this reality of what you are, this awareness, this consciousness that is our true nature, is always there. It can't not be there because if you're here, it's there. Right? So it's always there. Even when you think you're the personality, what you are is the awareness. You can't not be the awareness. You can't be the personality. You can't be anything other than the awareness. That's what you are, that's what you have always been, and that's what you will continue to be. This possibility is a very important possibility because if you pay attention to this awareness, you know, Mooji, a spiritual teacher, he did a guided meditation called The Invitation to Freedom. Well, I've played that in this class in the past. Some of you have heard that, right? And basically what he's doing, he's guiding you to pay attention and look inward to begin to see your true nature. And as he talks about your true nature, what he says about it is something that you can see for yourself if you look. If you look at your awareness, now since you are the awareness, that would be the awareness looking at itself, okay? So if you look at the awareness, right, and you're able to distinguish the awareness as something that's different from the personality, and if you pay attention to the awareness and you look at its nature, it's possible for you to see that it has no gender. I mean, if you look, you can do it right now with me. The awareness that you are is not a male or a female. The awareness that you are is not a physical body. It has no form. The awareness that you are has no form. The awareness that you are doesn't have needs. It doesn't need anything. It's perfect all the time, just the way it is. It's perfect all the time. Never changes, doesn't need anything, doesn't want anything. It's not going anywhere, didn't come from anywhere. Right? And it's in a state of well-being. What do I mean by that? It's in a state of well-being, meaning that it's always in a peaceful state. It never moves and it never changes, so it's always in a peaceful state, right? It's never upset because it never wants anything. Right? So this is the ideal experience of being human, is to know yourself as the awareness. And in order to know yourself as the awareness and have it make a difference, you have to practice it, because you and I have been practicing being the personality in the body for years. And most of humanity believes that they are the body and the personality, and that explains the situation that we find ourselves in. That explains the fact that human beings have always been struggling between themselves because they feel threatened by one another, right? Because we're different, and some of us have more money than others, and some of us have live in a better country than other people. So things aren't uneven in terms of the possessions that we have. And among us as human beings, there's this belief. There's this belief that life is about the pursuit of happiness. Haven't you noticed? Right? Life is about the pursuit of happiness. And what is it that will give us happiness? What will bring happiness? What's the agreement?
Things.
Yeah, and how do you get things? Money. Yeah, so that's the general belief that money is the source of happiness. And so everybody's pursuing happiness, and what that means is everybody's pursuing money, but there's not enough money for everybody to go around, so that's very unequal, right? And then you have the people that have the money are threatened by the people that don't have the money, and you have the money, people that have the money are threatened by the people that have more money than they do, right? Can you see how this is going to end up? Right? It ends up in something called war. Most wars start out with trade wars. If you didn't know that, right? So if that's the case, we're heading in the direction of Third World War, right? So those are the circumstances we are living with right now, and they're not good. And then the other circumstances that we're living with have to do with the idea if you identify yourself as a physical body, that's going to start to cause you to suffer because the body is on the way out. As soon as it appears, it's on the way out, right? It's changing all the time. It's going to get sick. It's going to get old, and it's going to die. And if you believe you're the body, then you have something to be afraid of, and that is your eventual demise, your eventual death, right? If you take yourself to be the personality, you're also suffering, right? Because personalities take themselves to be separate from all the rest of the personalities. And how you be a good personality is you compete with the other personalities to be better than other personalities. We learned this in our adolescent years. Remember that? When you're a teenager in school, if you didn't belong to the right group as a personality, right, you were on the out group, right? So this is the situation we find ourselves in. And unless there's a way out of it, the only thing left to do is to get some prescriptions or to become an alcoholic or get some legal marijuana or ketamine or watch TV all day, Find some way to distract yourself so you don't have to experience the circumstances that you find yourself in. So these teachings that go along with the practice of meditation say that if you practice meditation every single day without fail, that you will gradually begin to change your brain's understanding of what you are. And as that gradually changes, the suffering that was going on when you took yourself to be something that you're not starts to diminish and disappears. So that's a very attractive opportunity, right? It's a very attractive possibility, right? So here's the technique. The technique is relatively simple. And I like to keep it as simple as possible, right? So the technique is if you're going to practice, you're sitting in a chair, you have your feet flat on the floor. You want to do something with your hands, you can either rest them on your thighs or you can use what's called the mudra in the tradition. And a mudra this is called the cosmic mudra. You let your left hand rest in your right palm and let your thumbs gently touch one another. And then you keep your back straight, right? And you want to sit in a way where you're in a balanced posture. The posture in meditation practice is very important because you want to sit still for the entire time you're practicing and not move. So you want to sit in a way where the body can support its own weight. And in order to do that, you want to sit without resting, leaning back against anything, and let yourself find the center, right? The Dantian, or the hara, is considered the center of energy. It's about an inch below the navel. And then strictly going straight down from that into the chair would be the center of balance in your posture. Often you'll see monks when they're sitting on a cushion to meditate, you'll see them rock back and forth like this. They're looking for the center, or rock back and forth like this. They're looking for the center. Once they find the center, that's a place where you can let the shoulders release, let go of the body, let the body relax. So you can sit still like this for the entire time of the practice. So once you have the posture, the next thing is to begin to focus your attention on the belly. Why? Because we're going to use the breath, we're going to use the body breathing as a place to focus attention so that we can move attention away from the thinking activity. And while it's away from the thinking activity, the mind will start to calm down. The thing that keeps the mind agitated is your involvement with it. The thing that keeps your mind restless and agitated is that you're thinking all the time. That keeps stirring up the thoughts, And then you add the emotions to that. Now you have emotions and you have thoughts changing, stirring up all the time in the mind. So through meditation, we're moving our attention away from that activity to stillness. And the stillness is our true nature. The stillness is awareness itself. And we're going to pay attention to the belly moving when the body's breathing. So we're sitting still, and we're paying attention to the body breathing. And we're focusing on the belly moving as a place to watch the body breathe. And when we're watching the body breathe and we're away from the thought activity, we're experiencing reality. We're experiencing the truth. And the truth is that we are not the body. If I am looking at the body, I can't be what I'm looking at. If I'm looking at a tree, I know I'm not the tree. When I'm practicing meditation and I'm being the awareness that's still looking at the movement of the belly, I'm experiencing what I really am, which is the awareness, focusing its attention on the belly moving and experiencing that I am not the body, I'm the awareness that's aware of the body. And that same awareness that's aware of the body is the awareness that's aware of your thoughts, your feelings, your movements, your behavior, your perceptions. It's aware of all of that. But we don't pay attention to that. We pay attention to the mental activity. That's the way we were conditioned. We pay attention to thinking. And we ignore the awareness that is behind the thinking, aware of the thinking. So through the practice of meditation, we are familiarizing ourselves with the reality of what we are every time we practice. So once you have the setup and you're sitting in a posture and you move your attention away from the thought activity, focusing attention on the belly moving, you just hold your attention there and let the body relax. Now your attention's not going to stay there very long because as soon as the thought comes, you have the habit of following the thoughts. So as soon as the thought comes, your attention will go back to thinking. But as soon as you realize that you're back into the thought activity, move your attention back to the belly again. So for the time of the meditation practice, you'll be going back and forth. You'll be putting the attention of the awareness on the belly moving. Thoughts will come and pull it back to thinking. As soon as you realize you're thinking, you bring it back to the belly. If you keep doing this over and over again, every single day without fail, eventually the time that you spend away from thinking will start to expand. And as it starts to expand, you begin to experience the experience of well-being. As it starts to expand, you begin to experience a sense of peace, a sense of stillness, a sense of well-being. Once you get to that point in the meditation practice, meditation is easy because you started to get the payoff. But it takes a while to get to that point. So in the beginning, you have to just do the practice. And even if you sit there and spend half the time or 3/4 of the time in thought, the practice is still 100% successful. Because it's a practice. We're not trying to perform. We're simply practicing experiencing the truth, simply practicing being the awareness. So, I'm going to ring a bell so that we can all sit in silence and practice being the awareness, aware of the body breathing, and keep coming back to the belly moving every time we notice that thought is happening. During this time, if you find yourself falling asleep, come back. If you feel agitated or restless, see if you can relax enough to find the sweet spot in the middle between being restless and falling asleep. There's a sweet spot there. That's where you want to experience the meditation session. So I'll ring a bell and we'll meditate in silence, and I'll end the session with 3 bells.